Hello, welcome back. In this session and upcoming sessions, we are going to learn about Spring Cloud config server. So, what is a Spring Cloud config server? With the config server, we have a central place to manage external properties for applications across all environments. That means using config server, we are in a good position to maintain all the external properties. That means what are those external properties? Suppose in an application we will be having application dot properties, and every application we will be having certain properties like DB, username, password, host, and server port, and Zipkin URLs, and other various details will be maintained, and Eureka server configuration. Like this, many other details are available in a application.properties. Suppose if we are maintaining these properties in dev environment, development or local mission, it is okay to maintain. But in a real time applications, or when you are working in a MNC based company, your project is going to deploy into dev environment, SAT environment, UAT environment, pre-prod, production environment. Likewise, many environments will be there. So that time, how we are going to maintain these properties? So if we are maintaining these properties at one place, that is very convenient and it is very easy to maintain. And one more advantage also is there. The advantage is whenever we are updating certain things in application dot properties, immediately we need some deployment. That means we need to bring down the service, actual running service, and we need to update the application dot properties. Then we need to save it and we need to deploy it in dev environment, asset environment, and everywhere. So if we are maintaining at one common place, so that deployment, even though deployment not required, if we are updating at one common place, so that deployment is not at all required. If there is no deployment, then it is very easy to maintain, and your application also will not be down for some time. So that is the reason cloud config server has come in the picture. So the need of the config server just now we have discussed, and it is also very helpful for dev environment, SAT, UAT, pre-prod. And for this we are going to use Git. So Git is like one version control system, and we will be having SVN, JDBC. So in this session and upcoming sessions, we are going to use Git, where we are going to maintain external properties. Then what is a config server? Config server is going to maintain as a bridge between Git server as well as our microservices. If you are seeing the architecture, it is like this. So Git is going to maintain our properties, and Spring Cloud config, this cloud configuration will be maintained. So this cloud config will read the properties from Git repository, and whenever microservice want to read those properties, with the help of cloud config, it would be done. So that is what between microservice and Git repository, it is cloud config will be acting as a major major role. So that is the reason here. So here we need to understand how to configure Git repository in your mission, and how to configure for Spring Cloud config. So these services we already seen. So it is like a general microservice which we used to regularly develop. And for Git, how we are going to get it means, for that we need to visit Git website, that is git-scm.com downloads. And if you are visiting this website, you will be exactly finding this kind of website. So there you can choose any of your supported operating system. In my system, Windows is supported. So I have clicked on Windows and I had downloaded uh, Windows. If your machine is Macintosh, Linux or Unix, you can download respective operating system oriented Git. Once Git is downloaded, we need to put the properties file into Git. Then, and architecture also we need to see. So exactly architecture is like this: config server and microservices are here, and Git will be here, and Eureka server. So in this architecture, Eureka server also will be involved, because this config server is registered at Eureka server. And for this we need to know, we already seen how to configure Eureka server. As part of this lesson, we are going to learn how to configure config server and how to configure Git server. And this microservice one and all, this is our part of learning, and we already seen many services. So Eureka server configuration also we have seen in earlier session. And how to configure server. So that config server here, like before configuring config server, we need to understand like a project structure. And project structure need only Eureka server, config server, and any one project. So I have taken as a student details as one microservice. So with these three structures, I am able to implement config server and Git repository. So let us see how to config the server. So these are the steps. Exactly, I am going to implement these steps. So what are these steps means? For configuring server, we need to visit start.spring.io, and there we need to add config server dependency, and one more dependency also we need to add, that is a Eureka server dependency. Once those two dependencies added, you can generate the project. Once that project is downloaded, you can open that project, and inside that project we need to open config server application.java. There we need to add at the rate enable config server and at the rate enable Eureka client. So what it will be done means, it will enable the config server, and it will be registered at Eureka client. And we need to add some properties. So config server will run on triple eight double eight double eight, and this configuration server name we need to give. I have given the config server, and some properties file, external properties file, whatever we are having application dot properties, we need to use in we need to move those properties file into any of the local repository. This is my local repository name, and you can give any of the name. And here we have to give as the default zone localhost 8020. This is the Eureka registration. In config server, we need to maintain this one also, this instruction also, otherwise it will not be registered with Eureka server. So if we are following these steps, we will be able to complete the configuring config server, cloud config server. So like this, we are having some steps for Git also. So Git is very easy. We need to download, and we need to install step by step. And those are self-selected steps. No need to change any of the steps. And we need to click the next only. It will be finished Git. So once Git is installed, it will be appearing the window like this. Git bash will be opened, and once a git bash is opened, this window will appear. After installing Git, window will be appeared like this. So in our next session, we are going to see how to install, uh, how to write some instructions in Git repository, and how to store our application.properties into Git repository. So in our next session, we will see on that. And in another session, we will also see on how to configure the server. After that, we will see that how to access property external properties using Git with the help of config server. So this is about the introduction of the config server, and let us see in our next session practically. Till then, thank you.